Welcome to my live art show. This is streaming on Instagram, and I'm very happy to have you here. Thank you for coming. So, it is the first of the month. It's April. I have to tell you, I look outside the window and yes, there's snow on the ground. Believe it or not, it's snowing here in Michigan. So please send me your warmer, sunny weather, okay? We need it over here. Okay, so we'll get started. Now, the first thing I wanted to introduce is my, what I'm highlighting with this show is my iconic American series, okay? So there's a list of items, and I'd like to start by introducing, I have my list, by introducing Hearst Castle. Now, this beautiful, opulent mansion is in California. It was built by Randolph Hearst, and here I'll show you some detail. This is an original, and my iconic series is really highlighting some of the most beautiful and known and loved architecture in this country. So here, let me show you again. Look at that detail in there. So it might be a small painting, but it's extremely detailed. And that's what I love to do. So that is Hearst Castle. It was voted by the Time magazine as the most opulent, well-visited, one of the best visited, iconic places in the whole of America. So in fact, I tried to go there one day, many years ago, like 25 years ago. I had my mom from New Zealand, and we drove through the rain, and we arrived, and it was closed because of the rain, and then we drove all the way back to Los Angeles. But I always said then, you know what, I'm going to paint that one day. So it did take me 30 years, but I did do it. Okay. And the next one is also a beautiful estate. It's the Biltmore Estate. This is in North Carolina, and it was Vanderbilt family built it, and it's still in the family today. It took 20 years to build, as you can imagine. There's a lot of detail in that too. Let me just bring it up to you. This is an original, and by the way, there's 20% off all my originals today on my iconic series. So it's on my list. It's on my art store. And it's pen and watercolor. So if you look closely, can you see that pen, the pen work there? So I do pretty intricate pen drawing, and that is how I get so much detail. Then I put the watercolor on top. And I think it's the watercolor. It's sort of got a magical translucent quality to it. And it's the watercolor that really brings it to life. So that is the Biltmore Estate. Now what I wanted to point out, okay, that's the original. It's very small, but because there's so much detail, you can also, a lot of my clients love to get prints. You can get a much bigger print. For example, I had this made up. So here's the same Biltmore Estate, but of course it's a canvas. So you can, on my website, you can take that original, you can see the same detail there, and get it as a canvas. So it's bigger on your wall, in your living room, dining room. Might be a good thing to look at while you're eating dinner, I think. This home is known as the largest home ever built in America, by the way. And just a little fun fact, there's 200, when it was built and lived in, there was 200 bedrooms. Can you believe, what would you do with 200 bedrooms? But the great news about this is, I went there when we were traveling through North Carolina, and it's now, as of the last, I guess, 40 years, it's still within a trust of the Vanderbilt family, but it's the most beautiful trip. I urge you to go there when you have a chance. There's a winery. You can stay there because there's now a hotel. They've got the most beautiful art exhibits. They've got gorgeous gardens, and it's just, you could spend a whole day, cafes, restaurants. It's really, it's much more than a home. It's a beautiful experience, actually. It's an artistic and cultural experience if you go there today. And I do recommend Asheville, North Carolina is right next door, and it's a lovely city. That was on our list. That was the place that Bruce and I were almost going to live one time, but that's how good Asheville is. Okay. And still running along with our iconic. I'll take this away. Okay, who can guess what that is? That is the Alamo. It's famous in the history of America. Did you know it's in right in San Antonio, Texas? And did you know that the state of Texas has had more, let's say, rulers by different nations, sovereign nations, than any other state in America, that had 5 different flags. So the Alamo was a defining point. It's when people, Americans, who said, you know, we're not going to stand for this. We are not going to be taken over. This is American. Well, they lost and everyone got killed. And so this is in memory of those. But not long after that, America did take back over the Alamo. It was originally a Catholic mission. And so it's a mission, but it has a lot of different, you can imagine, it was also, so then it became a fort, and it's had many, many different, I guess, lifetimes almost of activities, and but it's a very, very special place. When you go there, it's really got I don't know, I had a sense that's just, it's quite magical. So, but it's also, it's a museum now, so you can see that. That's the Alamo. And now, the next one is number 4, and it is the famous, anyone who goes to New York will know it, the Brooklyn Bridge. And I've sold the original. I'm very happy about that. And this is a canvas, you see, so you got the canvas, and you can put it right on the wall. You can just get a print. Here's, I'm going to give you a little bit of detail there. As you can see, quite a bit of detail. It was a lot of fun doing that. I used to love, when I go to New York, I love walking over the Brooklyn Bridge, because the pedestrian walkway, for those who've been there, you'll see the pedestrian walk is elevated above the bridge itself, so you get the most incredible views, and it's, to me, it just really is the perfect place to see New York. Okay. And now we have the next iconic American architecture series. I don't think it wouldn't be complete. This is the birth home of Martin Luther King. And I feel he is just a very, very special American. And his work on civil rights, he grew up in a segregated country, and he changed that. And it was through passive resistance. He didn't believe in violence. He was a spiritual man. And this is where he lived till he was 12 years old. And it's now a museum too. Here, I'll give you a little bit of detail. It's in Atlanta, Georgia. And it's a museum. You can actually tour. It's a really fun tour. And the way they have the tour is that if you say, like, up here, I believe it's that room up there is where Martin Luther King and his brother, that was their bedroom. Well, if you walk into their bedroom, it's like 2 rambunctious boys, the bedroom you'd expect, clothes strewn everywhere, things sticking out of the drawers. Anyway, it's, the whole house is, created to look like it's lived in, which is really fun. You know, museums often it's like you don't want to touch. And this is where it was a very, Martin Luther King says himself at MLK that it was a very, very happy childhood. He has great memories. His father was a minister also, and they had choir practice in the house. It was just a huge, welcoming home, as you can see, a lovely Victorian, and everybody in the neighborhood knew it. So I hope I've represented some of those memories in this painting. Okay. All right. And moving to Washington, D.C., we have the famous Capitol building. It's been around for nearly 3 centuries, and George Washington himself laid the cornerstone of that building. So that's how long it's been there. It was based on it's a neoclassical design, and it's based on the Roman and Greek classical look. I don't know if you've ever been there, but you should always if you get a chance, go there. I love going into the rotunda. We live not far from Washington, D.C., so D.C. was a favorite place, and this building I think is pretty special. This is an original. Let me show you some of the detail here. Again, it's my pen and watercolor. You can see some of the detail like in the, there you go. And so it's pen and watercolor. It's a bit bigger than these others. Again, it would make, I think, a really awesome sort of larger painting. You could make a really huge painting. You could make it into wallpaper if you wanted, but, well, maybe not. That might be too much. But either way, that is my Capitol building one. We'll put this over here. And a different take on it, same building, but I may not be an American. I was brought up in New Zealand, but I've lived here longer than I lived in New Zealand, and go back home, I love it, but I guess I married an American over 30 years ago, so, and I've really come to love America. I wouldn't really want to live anywhere else. I think there's so much opportunity. I couldn't do what I'm doing here with my art, you know, in New Zealand, for example, it's just too small. And I love I've done paintings of homes, historic buildings in all 50 states, so it just makes it really interesting. New Zealand's a potpourri of cultural diversity, and I feel that the Constitution is actually, it's a very famous document. It's probably one of the most, well, statistically, it's lasted longer as a constitution than nearly any other similar document. So I guess it has some workability, and it's really just a matter of following it. But see, if you look up close, the Constitution is actually up in the sky. We the people, you know, you're not supposed to be able to read it in detail, but I wanted to really put the message across that I think that document is pretty important, and it's what makes America the great country that it is. Okay. So our next one, we are up to this 20 that I'm offering in this sale. And the next one is, right here. Now that, it looks like a very New York view. It's actually Little Church around the corner. That's it right there. In fact, a client of mine commissioned me to do this, and that was the view from his girlfriend's window. And she really didn't want to, you know, she loved that view. Can you imagine having that view from your window in her bedroom? And there's the Empire State Building, and I don't know, it's just a lovely snapshot of New York. I just thought, and I love the little church. It's really quite special. Many of you have probably been there, looked around, yeah. So that is that. And why I'm showing you, I put it in this frame like this. It's not original because the original's been sold, but I just wanted to give an example of how you could display. You could actually have a little smaller print, one of these, or even very small with a mat and a frame, or this. In this case, you got a nice big frame and a mat, double mat. So I'm trying to give some inspiration of how to display these pieces. You know, on my website you can buy a print, you can get one made. The quality actually is extremely high. The fulfillment place I use on my website in my art store, it's very, very high, and it's printed on watercolor paper, and it's so good that I can't even tell the difference between the original and the watercolor print. So that's how good it is. But you could buy a watercolor, just the print. It might be something like, oh, what's it over there? There might be something like $50 or something for the print, 30 to 50, depending what size. Then you can get it framed yourself. So it makes it affordable, and you've got lots of choices. If you really love these iconic buildings and you want to have some history in your home, yeah, there we go. Okay, now the next one is, the one and only, we'll put that up here. Empire State Building. It was called that because that's the nickname for New York State, Empire State. Mind you, I don't know why it was called the Empire State. That's a good point. But either way, it's for many, many years it used to be the tallest building, the skyscraper of New York. Now, of course, no longer. But it's always an indelible mark. To me, the Empire State Building is New York, and New York is that. So that's what that is. Now, here's my technique on this one. It's a little different. It's a mixed media. It's similar to the We the People. So it's not watercolor. It is acrylic paint. Yeah, let me give you a little detail here. So it's acrylic paint, and then I took a photo of it, then I colored the photo, and then I sort of threw some paint around and wanted to give it more of a rough texture, just something a little different. I had some fun with that one, and so that's what that is. You could actually, it could be a very big print, or you could buy this. This is an original, so I'm offering that 20% off. Okay. Let's see, what do we have now? We are up to number 10, and this is the Painted Ladies of San Francisco. Okay, there it is. Now anyone who's been to San Francisco, this is a famous view. I love this. You know, all these painted ladies, you know, San Francisco's gone through a lot. They've had huge fires. But when one of the worst fires in San Francisco, well over a century ago, about a third of the whole city was destroyed, all these beautiful historic buildings. And yet, all these 6 Victorian homes were left unscathed. I thought that was pretty cool. So I was trying to show how, despite the fire and the modern landscape, and you see the city behind in San Francisco, these wonderful Victorians have remained. And yeah, they are definitely a historic icon. And Penelope, my client, bought this painting, the original, and I just wanted to offer prints because I feel that these homes are just such a hallmark and really a cool identity for San Francisco. Okay, this, Americans, you should know what this is. It's the Independence Hall. That's where, on the 4th of July, the document of independence was signed. And it's in Philadelphia, of course. And this is not the original. The original was sold by one of my collectors, Suzanne. But as you can see, I made this print. The canvas print. So, and again, the original was about this size. So, you know, and you can look and see the detail. There's a lot of detail in that. So, they can't be blown up. They can be much bigger in size. They can, you know, maybe more to the centerpiece. Or you can have them smaller paintings, prints in the kitchen, living room, wherever you like. But that is Independence Hall. Okay, and number 12. Okay, Healy Hall. This is another one. I think it makes a great set. See this over here? Ooh, it's heavy. Right. Again, the original is sold, but Healy Hall is part of George Washington University, which is in Georgetown, one of my favorite places. We lived, about 20 minutes away from Georgetown when we lived in Old Town Alexandria, and I loved going to the university, and Healy Hall was always a favorite. It's a Gothic rendition. Look at some of these details. The building itself is incredible. See that? And that's Healy Hall. Beautiful. Okay, so that's my iconic series. That's what I'm offering today. 20% off anything, print, original, anything on my iconic series of America. And now I'm really proud to introduce a series. There's two of them. This is a new thing that I'm doing. It's my Lost American Architecture. Here's two of them. I'll take up each one separately. I've got there's four together in the series. So this one is the Federal Building in Chicago. So now and as it says here, it's my In Memoriam series. You can see there, In Memoriam, 1905, 1985. So can you imagine, this was just the most amazingly detailed building, constructed in the gorgeous quality materials, inside black walnut, marble floors. This cupola is actually bigger than it was the biggest of the whole, or the widest in circumference in the whole of the country. Bigger even than the Capitol building. So it was a jewel of Chicago. And historians say today how it was one of Chicago's biggest losses. Well, yeah. And can you believe it that I can't even imagine being on that wrecking ball team and being part of that and actually destroying and just smashing into this gorgeous aesthetic beauty. But that's what they did. So I decided to do this series of 4 paintings. I'm starting with that, really to show that there's just too many beautiful buildings that are lost here in America. And in fact, hundreds of historic buildings are destroyed each week in America, whether it's from decay, but many just from the wrecking ball, just demolished. So I have a message, and that's what my book is all about, Hand-Painted Homes. And my message is that we need to keep these beautiful buildings. We're going to regret it, because once they're gone, they're gone. You'll never replace them. It's impossible. So that's the Chicago Federal Building. Let me show you these others. So any of you who have traveled by train, like I have in New York, the current Penn Station, it's like a maze. You go down to some dark tunnels and dungeons, and anyway, it's a rabbit warren. But this was the original Penn Station in New York. And it's got In Memoriam, and the dates on it is from 1910 to 1963. So look at this though. It was built based on neoclassical design. Here we go. And it was almost like, look at these columns, and there was natural light flooding in. And in fact, my in-laws, my mother and father-in-law, they had their honeymoon in New York a long time ago. And they went and I arrived in the Penn Station, and they just were in awe, like the beauty. They almost didn't want to leave. It was just so nice just to sit and wait for the train. Well, who feels that way when you go into a train station today? I don't. But this is the quality of the master carpentry and the beauty and the design of some of these buildings. So this occupied, believe it or not, a whole New York City block. And they decided it had to come down though, because it took up too much airspace. Can you believe it? So all that, it was just like 3-story, I believe. So all the, like we could be making money on those stories if there were stories above it. So Madison Square is there and a bunch of other things, and it was just torn down. So there was that. Rest in peace. And this is closer to home, where I am currently. I won't be there much longer, but this is Michigan, Detroit, Michigan. This, as it says here in Memoriam, this existed from 1871 to 1961. It was the old Detroit City Hall. It really was the center of Detroit, and it was just, everyone flocked there. There was a grand parade on the 4th of July when it opened, and actually they had this huge bell, and when the bell chimed at midnight on the New Year, hundreds and hundreds of couples came and kissed. Right, they went up to that bell tower and kissed. It was just a tradition. And this clock here, this famous clock, everyone followed that time. When it was off by just half a minute or something, it was just, the mayor was overwhelmed with complaints because this was the building, and they tore it down because they decided it wasn't big enough and it wasn't modern enough. And you should see what's there now. As they say back home, it's bloody ugly. It's a really horrible building, and this is what they could have, and if they hadn't decided. And I just do want to say too, because often these buildings go down, they don't go down without a big fight. This one went all the way to Supreme Court, and they wouldn't hear it. But they were protests, and the same with Penn, all of these buildings. There was people really, really trying. But I think there's a lot more appreciation today, I have to say that. Despite our losses architecturally, there's a lot more appreciation to saving really historic, significant buildings. And but back, especially in the 50s, 60s, and some in the 70s, this was an area, this was a time when probably was the worst demolition record that America has. So this unfortunately fell at that time too. And the last one, look at this beauty. This is the CM Forbes Building. See, and Mr. Forbes was a very successful businessman. He had a hardware store, if you can believe it. Well, he must have been very, very successful hardware store to build this magnificent structure. And it came down. It only lasted for 40 years. It wasn't even due to be painted. And he died, and they turned it into a boarding house, and then they just tore it down. Can you believe it? Look at this. Look at the work. I think it took something like 10 years to even build. And, yep. It was built in 1889, and it came down in 1929. But I just think some of this detail is just exquisite. So, and the very important thing I got to say about this painting, this was a giveaway for anyone who follows me on Instagram. I said, I'm going to give this painting away, this big painting, 24 by 18 inches. And I have the winner. Let me see, make sure I get her name right. We drew it out. The winner is Jacqueline Mendelis. So Jacqueline, if you're listening, great. Otherwise, we'll be in touch with you. And I am going to ship you this painting for you to display in your home or wherever you like, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, and now, let's see, what's on our list? That's my Lost American Architecture series, and now I have a few others that I've had for, those are all pretty new, what I showed you, but I have a few others that are a little older, I've had kicking around. I love them. I sort of sell them from time to time, but I'm just going to throw them out here. I'm giving 50% off. They're all originals because we are about to move from Michigan. But actually, our next adventure is going to be Missouri. So we're going to head for St. Louis, Missouri. It's really a cool historic place and lots of architectural subjects. So we're going to move down there not too long, and here we go. Oh. Yes, so here's one. Now, actually, I'm going to hold it up just because it was in my sale and it's listed, but it's sold. Suzanne bought this painting and I will ship it off to her, but you can get prints if you'd like, but that one is Eiffel Tower, of course, in Paris. And the next one on the list is, okay, the others are all international, this one isn't, but it's an international city, and this is downtown LA. So, nice big painting, 50% off. So anyone who would like this, just let me know, and we'll get it shipped off. And this one is available, 50% off, the famous Taj Mahal. I saw it when I was in India. The sun was going down. It looked so magical. So I think it's a beautiful structure. And so anyone interested, get in touch with me. And this one, I spent a lot of time in Europe. I love Europe. Just the architecture, the people, and the thing about Europe that I especially love is that you can travel around, you can travel for a day and pass through 3 countries, and they're all totally different. They've all got their own special cultures and foods, and it's just the most fun, continent to me. I love it. Plus, the history, the cobblestone streets. It's just fascinating. So this to me depicts a typical sort of European country. I was in, where was I? In Scandinavia, in Sweden, and Oslo as well. And I found there was a lot of buildings that looked a lot like this, and I sort of made it up. It was just a composite of my experience. And, I'd love to walk through these quiet streets in the middle of the night. And they had these beautiful lamps and the lights, and I don't know, it was just really cool. So that's why I did this 50% off. Boom. Okay, well that ends my show. I want to thank you so much for being here. Are there any questions or any comments or anything that you need to? Okay.
Comments? Yes.
Oh, what's some of the comments? Oh, I forgot to introduce my trusted assistant, Alex. Alex is an artist too. Come in the camera. Oh, this is Alex. And she's helping me today. She's making sure it all goes smoothly technically, because I am not the best on this. So thank you, Alex. She does amazing drawing, and I found her one day drawing away in a cafe we like to go to.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Nice to meet you.
yeah. So I want to thank Alex, and I want to thank. We are staying here in Lansing, Michigan, before moving on, and Crystal's over there. My mother-in-law, she's been incredibly helpful, and we just demolished her living room, and so thank you very much, Crystal. She's standing right over there, and what I love about these live shows, but I thought this area was really good because it was nice and big, and you could really put lots of paintings. But when I get down to St. Louis, I'll be getting another big studio myself, and my next live show is going to be from St. Louis, and it's going to be in my studio, in my new studio. So I'll let you see that when it's coming up. Oh, what do we have there? Some comments or any questions?
We have a couple comments. One of them is from Katie Dean Jewelry that says they're all so beautiful.
Oh, great.
Mm-hmm. We also have another comment from Misha Cruz saying absolutely beautiful.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm. And Astrid's Art Studio said love. And Misha Cruz said again, I love that story about kissing in the top. So sweet.
Good. Well, now what I've done is we've got a recording of this, and we're going to send that around. And I know a lot of people can't always come to the live, but I'll be sending it to my email list. And I've also got all those 20 pieces on my website. You can go to my website, lisacollins.com, go to the art store, and it's all listed down there. The percentage, the sale, the prices, all the details about all these pieces I've just shown you. But I just wanted to personally relay some of the stories behind them, and my passion and what really drives me is to really, I love architecture, I love homes, I love buildings. I think architecture is really the soul of people, it's where they live. And I think I love architecture so much because architecture is just about people. So on that note, I'll say thank you for coming, and we'll sign off for today. Okay, bye.